Welcome to Heart Dialogue, where we believe that meaningful dialogues have the power to inspire, heal, and connect us on a deeper level. In this podcast, it's also about gathering and lifting a whole community up. Let us stand in response to people's cries and generate a current of dialogues for a better world. Let's HTHD! Impact for Stray Dogs today, and we need your help. By sharing this podcast, you are not just spreading the word, you are also creating a ripple effect.
We recommend once a week, honestly. Yeah, because if you come once a month, the next month you come, the dog won't remember you anymore. We do have a dog handling training that we offer.
Okay.
So it's run by our own staff. It's a full, 4-hour session of theory and hands-on training. So we do try to make sure that the volunteers that come in, they handle dogs in the way that we want them to.
So once again, for the audience today who are listening, we are making a positive impact for Stray Dogs today, and we need your help. By sharing this podcast, you are not just spreading the word, you are also creating a ripple effect. More share means more awareness, more funds, and more volunteers. And let's unite our love for all the furry friends. And next we have Kieran and a very special guest today. Kieran, maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit, and what do you do in this organization as a head of operation?
My name is Kieran, and I work for SOSD. I've been working for SOSD for the past 10 years. So basically my work is to manage the operations of the shelter in general. So from rehoming to the dogs at the shelter, to rescue. These are all kind of under my purview. So I work closely with the staff and the volunteers to make sure that the whole process from rescue to caring for them in the shelter and then to getting them adopted is a smooth process lah.
Basically, you do almost majority of the...
Yeah. So I basically oversee the entire process lah.
I see.
Yeah.
What would be the challenge for you in this as a head of operation?
I guess maybe I wouldn't say my challenges as the head of operations. I would say my challenges would be the society's challenge. So we always need good manpower.
Volunteers.
Good volunteers. And I think because the work that we do requires knowledge and skills that we have already picked up over the years, and getting people to come in fresh, it takes a long time for them to really understand how things work. So like we mentioned earlier, we do need people to be with us for at least a while and then to continue helping us.
How long what's the a while you're referring to? Like how long? Minimally, at least minimally, how long they should be with SOSD?
I think to really pick things up would be at least 6 months to a year. Yeah, and then from there, you can really then become more independent in doing everything on your own lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For all these volunteers, right? If let's say they sign up to be a volunteer, how would you train them? Is there any training provided?
So we do have different departments. So for example, shelter, we have the volunteers signing up to come to the shelter to interact with the dogs.
Okay.
So we do have a dog handling training that we offer.
Okay.
So it's run by our own staff. It's a full 4-hour session of theory and hands-on training. So we do try to make sure that the volunteers that come in, they handle dogs in the way that we want them to. We want to be kind to the dogs. We want to be gentle with the dogs. So we also want the dogs to be comfortable with you. And honestly, our dogs are very fearful these days. They do need familiar faces. So if a volunteer that comes only one time, the first time the dog is seeing this human, they're probably going to be scared of this person.
Okay.
That's why I mentioned we need volunteers to come in regularly for a period of time, and then the dog can then be comfortable with the person and be able to move forward with the progression of walking with them.
So once a person become a volunteer, how regular should So it means like a volunteer in a shelter. That means this volunteers can get to interact with the dogs, can take care of the dogs and what's not. Then how regular they will need to be there in the shelter?
We recommend once a week, honestly. Yeah, because if you come once a month, the next month you come, the dog won't remember you anymore.
Once a week.
Yeah.
Any preferred timing or up
yes,
to their
so
schedule?
we do have like specific timings. So weekday mornings, we have Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and the weekends. So we really gather some people together and then we bring the dogs out together. Weekday evenings is a little bit more flexible because the staff is at the shelter. So we are able to assist the volunteers when they come in.
Okay. So the volunteer come in and then to the shelter, feed them and then walk the dog. Like what are the things that they need?
So the main role of the volunteers that come to the shelter, we get them to interact with the dogs. For the dogs that cannot be brought out because they haven't learned how to walk on leash yet, we'll teach them to take food from our hands or even just not be afraid of our presence altogether. So there are some exercises that we can do. For example, if a dog is like cowering at the corner of the enclosure, but we know that, okay, this dog is actually responsive to food. So we'll teach the volunteer, okay, you can walk up to the enclosure, toss a treat in, and then walk away. So as you walk away, the dog might be a bit more comfortable in taking the treat.
I see.
So after the dog takes a treat, maybe like it takes like 3 seconds, 5 seconds, that's when you can go back and then you toss another treat and then you walk away again. So this is how we kind of teach the dog to be a little bit more excited and happy when humans appear, because every time humans appear,
there's treat.
Food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it can start from as simple as that. When the dog is able to eat in front of presence or the dog is able to eat from our hands, that's when we can start to do introduction to the collar. We can start to put the food in front of the collar and see whether they can actually move around the collar and all that. Yeah. So all these are little steps that
like
we
baby
build
steps
up
to
for the dog to eventually have the collar on them, and then when the collar is on them, then we try to like let them move around with the collar on them. And then the next step would then be to bring them out of shelter. Yeah. So it can be very challenging for the dogs because this is something that's super new to them. They used to live in forest. They used to see humans and humans coming with like big traps.
Yes, I try to catch them.
Yeah, so it is a big change for them, and there's a lot of undoing of these emotions that they have about humans. Yeah, so for dogs that can be brought on leash, then the volunteers will take them out for walks.
I see.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about different departments. So the first is actually the shelter. Then what are the other departments that you need volunteers at?
Okay, so May was here earlier on. She's part of the rehoming team. So the rehomers are also very important because they are the bridge for the dogs from shelter to a home. So without the rehomers, the dogs will all be stuck at the shelter, and we will not be able to rescue any more dogs. So rehoming is not so much of interaction with dogs. So sometimes when people write in to volunteer, their intention is actually to interact with dogs. So for rehoming, it's totally different. It's a lot of dealing with humans, and most people who want to volunteer in a dog shelter prefer not to deal with humans. Okay. Honestly, it takes passion to keep going.
What would be the expectation for those who are looking at, I want to volunteer in a rehoming team? So what could be their expectation?
So rehoming, the whole rehoming process is very ad hoc. So it's a lot of communicating through text messages or calls. So even though like it sounds like it's quite a long journey, a lot of it is actually coordination. You do have to be present at the interactions. You do have to be you do have to be present when the dog goes over to the potential adopter's house. And then you have to be present when you sign adoption papers. But these are all arranged according to like your availability and the adopter's availability. So it's kind of like you have to set maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks to be present for like an hour or two to make sure the whole process goes smoothly.
Okay, so in short, for those who they prefer to interact with the dogs, may not suitable to be part of the rehoming volunteers.
If you want to interact with the dogs, then it will be at the shelter.
So for those who wants to volunteer to be at the rehoming, what sorts of criteria just now, like some characteristics or personalities?
So probably, I mean, firstly, you must be a people person.
Yeah.
So you must be open and good at talking to people. You must have some degree of emotional intelligence.
Okay.
So friendly disposition, basically pleasant.
Okay.
And if you're and probably extroverted would be better. If you're
Extroverted.
introverted and if it takes a lot of effort for you to speak to people, then of course, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's just a bit tougher.
Yeah, you
Energy
might not
draining
enjoy
as
it.
well.
Yeah, you might not enjoy
it
it
might
as
become
much.
very difficult.
Yeah,
So,
but then if you're really passionate about it, then
and
you
of
might
course
be able to-
patience,
Yeah.
because you really have to explain step by step and to explain to people and always answer these patiently, you know.
Yeah.
And also sometimes things just don't go your way and you cannot get angry when that happens because it just doesn't help the situation.
Okay, so must be must be someone who extrovert, patient,
Yeah.
high EQ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not easy. And actually, besides rehomers, just now we're talking about fosterers.
Yes.
So the other volunteers are the ones who take the dogs into their home temporarily before they get a home. And also we have the other administrative volunteers, those who help with fundraising,
Yes.
those who help to run the social media. We even have all the very difficult IT volunteers, those who help to manage the website.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot. So you just imagine that this is like a company with a structure and a big part of it is run by volunteers. And we need volunteers in every part of those things. And finally, of course, the board members. So the board members are the ones who set the tone, run the organization. So of course, I'm on the board. We also need volunteers to be a board member.
Okay, I'm just curious about the volunteers to be a board member. Can you share more about the board
So
members?
how the organizational chart is for SOSD, we have the board.
Yes.
So we have the board, and then after, of course, we have the directors. So we have the head of operations, Kieran. We have head of marketing, fundraising, that's Madeline, and then all the departments that come down.
Yes.
So the board is sort of like almost like the just like a company, the governing board. We make our decisions there. We plan the budget, talk about how to move forward. We have to approve or disapprove of large amounts of spending. We are responsible for the donations, for the welfare of the staff. We also do HR. We manage we do our best to manage the welfare of the staff. We are in charge of hiring. So it's actually quite a bit of work and not easy to find people who want to take on these roles.
So
voluntarily.
Voluntarily, yes.
So the board of director, any particular profile that you're looking at?
So for the board, we need specific attributes and specific skill sets. For example, we always need a treasurer. The treasurer has to be financially trained. We need someone, for example, one person who's good in HR, one person who's good in governance, one person who's good with marketing and social media. So we need very specific skill sets that will help to propel the society forward.
Okay. Later on, maybe I can find the organization chart. I think I
sure.
get some.
Yeah.
So we can post that and so people can have a glance of it.
Correct, yes.
So you need volunteers basically
in all aspects of the organization.
Calling for IT, calling for the, you mentioning, apart from the fostering?
Fundraising, fostering, governance, and you just imagine the big challenge we have is in order to volunteer as a finance person, you are basically volunteering and doing your day job. So it's very, very tough and it requires a lot of passion for someone to do that.
Okay. Yeah. So volunteering, I would say this organization, 90% are run by volunteers.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Right.
So we have a very lean staff count. The staff members like Kieran are the ones who run the essential functions. For example, the shelter will collapse without someone there holding it together. And that's why we have Kieran. Trap neuter release, the sterilization operations, you need someone who's there 24/7.
Yes.
Not only weekdays, weekends, and overnight, Sometimes they stake out, they stay there for overnight. And that we need staff members. Our shelter on Jurong Island, they also have to feed the dogs. They have to also manage the dogs on the island 24/7, rain or shine. So
Okay.
these are the people that these are the positions that are held by a staff member. Everything else is volunteers.
I see. So with all these limited resources, right? Managing resources become extremely crucial, right?
Of course.
So how do you guys prioritize the needs of the stray dogs with all these limited resources?
Well, firstly, the dog's well-being is always our priority. We make sure that they are physically and mentally well taken care of, medically as well. So one big challenge is that a lot of dogs come to us sick. So they come to us sick, and that requires a lot of funds.
Yes.
We really have to prioritize our funds. We have a committee to see and to make sure that we spend the funds really very, very judiciously. We cannot just spend money anyhow.
Yes.
And since a large part of money goes to the dogs, the rest of it, all the welfare and everything, a lot of it takes a back seat. And also, we really have to scrimp and save on every other aspect. We also rely a lot on kind donations to help to keep everything else going.
Yes. Okay. We actually have this special guest today. I think he's getting very comfy. Shall we introduce our guest?
Okay, this is Flubby. He's my dog. I've had him since he was a puppy, and that was 10 years ago now. So maybe I'll talk about his rescue story.
Yeah.
He was rescued as a puppy. I think he was like 2 months old or slightly younger even. And he was part of a litter of, I think, 15 puppies, thereabouts. That was still early on.
Puppy.
Like 2 months old. Yeah, he was this small. Yeah, and I think I wasn't involved at that point yet. So by the time I saw him, I was still a volunteer before I joined full time. So I wasn't involved in the rescue part. But I did go to see him because I heard that they were looking for fosterers. So he was meant to be my first foster dog. So we went to see him. He was lying at the back of the room, just like staring at us. And then there were other puppies in front and clamoring for attention. But he was like at the back and just like looking at us calmly. So I'm like, the dog quite cute. So I went to carry him. And it's like, okay, this is the one. Yeah. So before that, he was actually living in a factory. From what I've heard, the factory workers were going to fatten them up and slaughter them for food.
What?
That's what I heard. I'm not sure whether it's totally true.
Okay.
But I mean, 15 puppies is quite a lot of food, right? Yeah. Yeah. So thankfully we got all of them out, and they've all eventually found loving homes, and it's a happy ending for them. That's why we have to keep doing what we do.
When because you guys are going to for the rescue, so you do rescue dog. Is there any misconception? What are the common misconceptions that people would have towards all this rescued dog?
You're talking about the rescue operations or the dogs?
The dogs.
Well, I mean, of course, sometimes people look at the stray dogs and say, not pure, right? So there's the first impression, we not pure, not a cute poodle or whatever.
Yeah.
So the first misconception is that because they are not pure, they are lesser beings. And they are less loving or less suitable as pets. So that's not true. The breed doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is every breed has their own temperaments, right?
Yes.
So every dog is very individual. So just because they're mixed doesn't mean that they do not make good family pets or good companions.
And they can be very well trained as well, right?
And that they're not smart. So this is the first misconception.
Yeah.
So stray dogs actually they are not aggressive. They're not stupid, they're actually very intelligent. Second is that people think, stray dogs are dirty, and they're going to bite, they're going to chase, but that's not true. I mean, every dog can be clean or dirty.
Actually, the fact that they're trying to bite or chase is a sign that they are just being insecure and they are so fearful, right?
Correct. So so it's a pack mentality and all that. So that was some of the very big misconceptions, but we have cleared a lot of it up. So now Singapore has become a lot more accepting towards them. Still a lot needs to be done because still there are a lot of people who say, I would rather have a pure breed, I would rather buy, and we always try to encourage people to consider adoption first.
Yeah. We just clear a little bit doubts today. Maybe Kieran can showcase. Flubby is very, very cute and intelligent. He's very smart though.
He is.
Flubby, come here.
Oh.
Come here. Just woke up. Come here. Sit.
Oh.
Boy. Chin. Chin.
Oh.
Change. Stand up. Say please. Please.
Oh.
Good boy. Spin. So slow motion.
He just woke up.
Cute.
Cute.
What else do you know? High five. Change. Good boy.
Oh.
Down. Down. Bang. 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 Don't want. Bang. Don't want to die. Okay, don't die. Don't die ever. Okay, wait. Puppy, wait. Wait, Wait. Wait. Okay.
Oh.
Good boy.
He's so handsome.
And so gentle. Very gentle.
Yeah, so he's 10 years old now. It's been
Oh.
10 years.
Still look very young.
Yeah, always hope that like our dogs will live forever.
I hope so too. Yeah. Average lifespan of a dog is about 15 years, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. For people like us, it's like 15 years is not enough.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. But then when you have people giving up their dogs,
Yeah.
it's like just look after the dog for a few more years, right?
Yeah.
And their lives are so short.
And I think, would that be common that people just give up their dog when the dog become old and ill?
I think in terms of people outside who buy dogs, I think that happens a lot because the process of buying a dog is so easy. You know, they just go to a pet shop and like, they just pay money and they get a dog. But I think in terms of dogs that were adopted, at least through a proper shelter, there's a lot of screening involved, and we let people know like, okay, the dog is going to grow old, you're going to have to like look after the dog until the dog's last day. So I think they're a bit more prepared for when the time comes.
And can you share a little bit like how to handling medical emergency for stray dog? Any tips?
Stray dogs
Yeah.
or our own dogs?
Own dogs and I think own dogs. Do you have any challenge when handling own dogs, or maybe the new adopted one? Maybe just the new adopted
So
one.
you mean when dogs are just adopted, what to look out for?
Yes.
As in when dogs are just adopted, if there's any health concerns.
Yes. Correct.
I think if you're unsure, just go to the vet first. That would be the first step. But then of course, if you have contacts with if you adopted a dog from a shelter, it's a good way to start is really to ask your volunteer that you were liaising with.
So
they could always check with us on like whether something is really of concern or is it something not so serious.
So for our dogs, the good thing is that we already have a very good idea of their medical background. And we would have told you about their medical background before you get them. So in terms of sudden medical emergencies, they're not that common. We would have sorted out the health issues. For example, tick fever, heartworm. We would have done all those things. A dog can't talk, so that's always a big problem. And by the time they are sick, sometimes they can be very sick. So when you see that a dog is not eating, not drinking, of course that's emergency, or they cannot get up, or they're not so responsive. One big emergency that can happen in stray dogs is actually bloat. So bloat is actually torsion of the stomach. The stomach twists upon itself. This is more common in deep-chested big dogs. So my dog died of bloat in February, and the problem was I was away and overseas, and it was a Sunday. So my helper took a while to recognize the symptoms, which are really non-specific. He was just very lethargic. He was panting. He was having a lot of pain, not eating well. And then it's a surgical emergency. So that's something you have to take note of. You have to get them to a vet and undergo surgery within hours. Yeah.
Okay. And back to the back to just now regarding the misconception, right? We were talking about, at first we shared about the dogs, and then what about from operational self thing? Is there any misconception, like common misconception that people have towards such organization?
Well, so people don't realize sometimes that even though we are a volunteer non-profit organization, we function pretty much like every other organization. There is, of course, director, there is staff, there are different departments, there are a lot of compliance issues and all that. So as a charity, on top of functioning like a normal company, we also have to make sure that we comply and adhere to very strict guidelines. And some of these guidelines can appear as a pain to people who don't understand. For example, when we do fundraising, we must make sure that a big proportion of what we fundraise goes to the cause. For example, we also must make sure our expenditure complies with that.
Yes.
So these are things that sometimes people don't understand. And why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? The other thing is, of course, our processes. Like we talked about adoption of dogs. Why do we require certain things? Like, for example, you to undergo screening after screening after screening. Why do we insist on visiting your houses? So all these issues are because we want to make sure that the dog goes to a suitable home. So this is a misconception that sometimes people say, oh, the organization is just trying to be difficult. But we're not. Yes. We don't have so much. We're not trying to do that. Yes. What we're trying to make sure is that
everything is done
everything
right.
is smooth. Yeah,
yes.
We're not being difficult. We are just doing what's necessary to ensure the dog's well-being.
Yes, because the well-being of the dog is the priority.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one more thing is also sometimes we have a limited number of shelter spaces, right? So we aren't able to take dogs in most of the time. But then there are people writing in fairly often to say, I need to give up my dog, or there's a stray dog there, can you please go and rescue it? You're a dog shelter, why can't you just pick up the dog? You're supposed to rescue.
They expect you have the room.
Exactly. So the misconception is just because we're a shelter, we are able and we should be rescuing the dogs. But the fact is, unless the dogs in the shelter gets adopted and that space frees up, we are not actually able to help the dog. Not that we don't want to, but we are not able to.
The space is challenging. And then the manpower, the volunteers are another challenge. And then the funds also another challenge, right?
Yep. Then the other thing is rescue. People always think, rescue is very exciting. You go down and very exciting, very dramatic.
I think I'm guilty of that. Okay.
But sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes it's very slow. It involves hours and days of sticking out. We have our staff hiding in dustbin, waiting for the dog. So things like that. So it can take
they actually
days.
wait for like 7 hours in the dustbin.
Yeah. Because the dogs get startled and they run away if they see us. So sometimes the process of rescue or trapping to sterilize them is a very slow process. So that's another misconception.
I see. Thank you for sharing. I'm guilty for the third one. Okay. When you talk about the challenges, the fundraising, right? What are the specific fundraising goals right now that you have? And
there are two. Okay, we always have need to fundraise to continue operations. Most of the funds go to the dogs, medical bills, keeping them healthy, space, of course, rental. So that's all the operational part. But there are two projects that I would like to talk about that we are fundraising for. The first is a very special project that we haven't done before. It's a short story project.
Okay.
So we are planning to work with producers. Actually, a very kind producer, Mr. Daniel Yun, has agreed to assist us on this project. And he is trying to gather directors to come together to shoot a series of short films based on the stories of SOSD. It can be rescue stories, it can be our origin story, so that it can raise awareness for the cause.
That's beautiful.
Unfortunately, to do this, we need money, we need funding, and it's not that cheap. The directors, Mr. Daniel Yun, they're all doing this pro bono, but still to hire the crew, to get shooting, to get actors, all these require funds.
How much are we looking?
Talking about 30,000 per short story, and we're trying to hit at least. We're talking about 30,000 per short story, and we're trying to do at least a series of 5 short stories. Each short story is about 15 to 30 minutes. So that will require at least 150,000. But of course, the more funds we can gather, the more we can do and the more we can showcase.
So for this 5 short stories, right, it will comprises of how SOSD being formed
Well, it really depends. It really
Okay.
depends on the director. So we're also gathering stories right now. It can be personal rescue stories of a certain dog. For example, how Fabio was rescued. Or it could be a human interest story. For example, the life and journey of May, the volunteer, for example. So it really depends on what the director sees as interesting and worthy to turn into a good film.
How do you think making these short stories, right, could actually help for SOSD, either to raise awareness or to raise funds? Right?
So the film, the medium of film is a very powerful medium, and it evokes a lot of emotions. So we can read a story online. We can see an Instagram reel, but it's very different from seeing a well thought out, planned, and professionally shot story from start to end. And a good film, a good short story has the power to evoke the passion, evoke passion in people and to create change. So it can actually cause someone to think through and say, I want to do something. I want to adopt a dog. I want to donate, or I want to make a change. So we're hoping that the short stories can help to do that. Not so much to raise funds and all that, but really just to create awareness.
So the main purpose of the short story is to create awareness.
Create awareness, to make people realize and to learn more about them, and to allow people who are thinking of doing something but has not yet made that move to take that step so that they start making a change.
Beautiful to hear that. For audience who are listening right now, right, if they make any donation, how would this donation being put, like 100% to the short film, or would you separate?
Oh yes, we definitely need a separate fundraising. This is for compliance for the short films. So we are starting to fundraise for that. We're reaching out to organizations. We're asking individuals to help as well. So that would really, really be very helpful. Of course, in people who donate, we can actually credit them. At the end of the whole project, we can credit the organizations.
So that's mean, like, for those audience who are listening to this, if let's say they would want to donate specifically for this short film, can they write in, or?
Yes, please. Of course, they can write in. They can indicate on their donation that they're donating to this project.
Okay, good. So they can indicate. So at least for every dollar that they donate, it will go to their intended usage.
Yes, correct. There's another big project that we are embarking on that I'm very excited to share.
Okay.
We are looking for more shelter space. So like we keep saying, shelter space is an issue. The current space that we have is very kindly organized and put together by the authorities, but there are some limitations in terms of proximity, crowding, and space. It's a small area. There are a lot of dogs, and as we mentioned, our dogs are fearful. It's very difficult to get them to even put on a leash.
Correct.
So sometimes being in such an environment makes it even harder. We're trying to find a space that's more conducive for them to learn how to be in a home. So for this, we need a bigger space. We need more space, more spread out, specific requirements. For example, a shelter that has a place that looks like a living room, so that the dogs know how to behave in a home environment.
What about the current shelter space? How many dogs can you afford to?
We currently have about 60.
For both the shelter?
No, the other shelter in Jurong Island has 100.
But that shelter in Jurong Island is really bare basic bones and nothing else. Basically, it's electricity by a generator, rainwater. So it's really bare bones for Jurong Island. So that is totally, that's the first step. So we're talking about the shelter in Sungai Tengah, the main shelter space. That one, we have the ability to house about 80 dogs.
80 dogs.
But however, we keep a portion of the space for trap neuter. That means the dogs come in, they recuperate after their surgery, then we release them back. So when we talk about just the rehoming space, it's about 60. And those spaces are very small. Each enclosure can be as small as 2 by 1 meter. Some of it a bit bigger. And dogs that stay in a small space for a very long time, they sometimes develop certain habits that's a bit difficult to get rid of. So that's why we hope to have a space that's a bit better.
Maybe we can have a little bit videos about the space that we just talking about.
Correct.
I think give the audience have a better.
So now what we're trying to do is we're trying to look for a bigger shelter space. In Landscare Singapore, looking for a space is almost hoping for a miracle.
Yes.
But we have identified some of these spaces, reasonable spaces, but these spaces are really quite bare bones. We'll need a lot of repurposing of the space.
Okay.
We'll need to renovate them. So we're actually now in the very initial stages of getting architects in to have a look at how we can maximize all these spaces with minimal cost of renovations.
Yes.
But still, it's going to require a lot of work.
By when do you actually set this? By when? What was the timeline?
We're hoping that we can start in half a year.
Half a year.
To start the works in half a year and take another half a year perhaps to finish. So probably by the end of 2024. This is something that is very immediate. And we will need to raise a lot of funds for it. Because even a very, very basic building, we're talking about at least $1 million to $2 million. We're working out the precise cost. In fact, after this, right after this, me and Kieran are going to have a proposal meeting with the architects.
Maybe we can update the amount that needed after that. Yeah, later we'll talk about the flat day.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so we come back to the one of the biggest project, which is to have a new home for them, right?
Yeah, correct.
So can you share a little bit more, Dr. Siu, for the audience to kind of visualize a little bit, like how would be the new home like, and how can this new home be a better home for them, for the stray dogs?
So this new home that we envision is a bigger piece of land. So currently SOSD is occupying a very small slither of kennel space, really small slither. We're talking about probably less than 1,000 square feet. This new place that we're looking at is about 1 hectare. So a huge place with open spaces. So this open space will have places for dogs to run, green grass that they can run in. These will of course have kennels. So they have kennel spaces for them to rest in, bigger kennel spaces. There will also be spaces for them to interact. So that will be the green spaces, or common individual spaces and common spaces for them to come together.
Yes.
And we're also hoping that these spaces will have a home simulated environment. For example, like I was telling you, a living room, for example, or a bedroom, such that the dogs can learn how to be before they go to an actual home. We hope to have miscellaneous services in this space as well. We're talking about possibly a education center. So we want a center where the public can come, schools can bring children here to learn more about animal welfare, how to be kind to animals. And of course, the activity room. Right now, we don't have any space that we can hold gatherings or we can hold even talks for people. So these are all spaces that we hope to have. And once we have enough funds, we can even think about small retail spaces where people can come and look at some merchandise, even a vet service where we can perform some emergency services or some medical services for the dogs.
So, I already can visualize the new home, and it's I already have the image in my head right now. And definitely we need the audience power, like to once again to share the podcast and to raise more awareness so that we get more donations and every dollar count, right? Maybe Dr. Siu can share like how much is the value of every dollar being donated?
So because we run solely on donations and we are non-profit, every dollar counts. We scrimp and save. Not only the volunteers, but the staff like Kieran, they really scrimp and save. To give you an idea, every day we have 60 dogs. Let's just talk about Sungai Tengah. And the cost of food alone, just to feed a dog for one day, how much is it?
One dog maybe about $3. Yeah, but at the moment we have sponsors for the food. So that has been very, very helpful.
So about $3 for a dog's one day
per
food.
day. So that would be $180, for example, just to feed, just to make sure that the dogs don't go hungry. And we're not talking about luxurious food. We're talking about bare basic kibbles. So it's actually a lot of money. And for example, rental itself is already 4,000.
Oh yeah, 4,000.
About 4,000 a month. Wow. So all these add up. When talking about medical bills, it's even
like
more.
Like the vet consultation?
It can be very scary. We have kind vets who give us good rates, but still, sometimes we get very sick dogs, and medical bills can be as low as 10 to 20,000 a month. It can be as high as six figures, 100,000. So it's really unpredictable depending on how sick the dogs we have. Sometimes we get dogs who are caught in a road traffic accident. They break some limbs, and it can cost $5,000 to $10,000 just to do a surgery. And of course comes the dilemma. If we have too many of these dogs, then which ones do you want to operate on? Which ones you don't want to? And sometimes it comes down to that, and we have to make the hard decision and say that, we have no choice. We can't give the best. We can't do the surgery now. We may have to wait later. We are no-kill organization. We don't put down the dogs unless they're suffering or unless the quality of life is very poor. So as much as possible, we try to cure them when they're sick.
I think one of the problems we are starting to face now, SOSD is 10 years old now, right?
Yes.
So a lot of the dogs that have not been adopted till now are old. So a lot of dogs are within the 8 to...
Like flummy age already.
Yeah. 8 to like 14, 15 years old. And as they age, as humans age as well, medical issues arise.
It's even more impossible for people to adopt them.
Yeah, exactly.
So the cost is going to raise.
Yeah, so when a dog gets older, the chances of them developing an illness is much higher. Then that's where we have to send them to the vet, get them checked. And sometimes, because we have so much technology now, we have the MRI scans, we have the CT scans, they are available for us to utilize, but these all cost so much more. Back then, it's like, okay, just an X-ray is like a few $100s. Now an MRI is a few $1,000s, but because it's available, we sometimes have to do it.
Yeah.
And then with so many dogs under our care, the question is, are we able to do it for every single dog?
Exactly.
Yeah, we have to pick and choose sometimes. So to give you an idea, recently my dog adopted from SOSD, he's 12 this year. He recently ate something on his walk and then he felt very sick and he had acute liver toxicity. We don't know what happened.
Okay.
So of course, rushed to the vet, stayed for 2 days, and it was about $8,000. Just like this. And this is my dog, so I will not hesitate, right?
Yes,
Even
correct.
if I sell something, I will do it. But when it comes to the public's donations, then it becomes very, very difficult sometimes. We really have to think very hard, how are we going to spend this money and maximize every dollar?
And you need to put it in a report, right?
Of course,
the
So everything is accounted for. Every cent is accounted for, and we always make sure that every cent is well spent.
Thank you for answering that. Yeah, and then any activities that are coming which is exciting to share, and you need to call for.
Yep. So we have regular activities. We just had our charity dinner in August. That's an biannual affair. But the next big one will be our Flag Day. So this Flag Day will be on the 2nd of March, 2024. So Flag Day is a very interesting event. It's not only, it's of course, Flag Day means that people go out, carry tins and start to ask for donations. But for us, it's not only just that, because we actually have a big event around it. So we actually have a base. We have a base where everybody comes together. We have activities there. We have adoption drives happening as well. This will be at... Okay, so I'm going to say that sentence again. So there'll be a base and everybody will come together, collect the tins, and we'll have activities. We'll have also fundraising. We will have adoption drives. Dogs will be there. Volunteers will be there. The base this year is at Guaco Tower. So this is on 2nd of March. We are still looking for volunteers. We're looking for volunteers to come and help us go out to the public. They will come to Guaco Tower, collect their tin, go all over Singapore and get funds. And also people who have no time to do that, at least please volunteer your time or just come down to the event on the 2nd of March at Guaco Tower.
Just to show support.
Show support, come and have a look, learn about what we do and see the dogs for adoption.
Okay, so it's on the 2nd March at 2024 at Guaco Tower.
Yeah, it will be a whole day affair. So we'll start early in the morning. So we'll start early in the morning at 9 a.m. and it will end in the evening, probably 5 or 6 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah, we had our first Flag Day in November 2013. So it's been slightly more than 10 years since our first Flag Day. And our last Flag Day was actually in 2018.
Wow.
So it's been 5 years. So hopefully we can get more help and support for this upcoming one.
How many, what's the target of the volunteers that you need? 500.
So we need 500. We need 500 volunteers to help to collect tins. Okay, we need 500. We need 500 flag collectors. So we need 500 participants to go out and collect funds.
Do the volunteers need to stick with you the whole day, or because some may not be able to stick for whole day, right?
We have 2 shifts, so usually we'll split it up. One for like, for example, I think around 9 to 2, and then the next one will be like 2 to 6. Something like that. We will have to fine-tune the details.
We have different shifts. Of course, if people can stay the whole day, previously we had volunteers who actually went out, tin is full, came back, take another tin. You know? So very, very kind volunteers. Of course, people who can't, even a few hours of their time is already very appreciated.
Okay. I was wanting to ask about the I slipped my mind. Sorry. Yeah, about the flag day, right? So what's the aim, the fundraise from the flag day?
Target.
SRC.
Correct.
target?
What's our target?
What's the target?
You mentioned what that time?
80, but
We are running
Say
on
100.
KPI.
100. Just say 100.
Okay. So for this flag day, we are targeting to raise $100,000, and all the funds will go towards the building of the new shelter.
Oh, okay. So all this flag days, the fund raised from the flag day will be helping all the furry friends to find the new shelter, right?
Yeah, to get a new home.
To get a new home. Okay, so our KPI is 100,000.
Yes.
If we can exceed that, that would be ideal.
Yes,
I mean,
the
like
much the merrier.
100,000 is just
The more
a
the
small
merrier.
portion.
Correct. So minimally, we are looking at 100,000.
Yeah, we hope to raise at least 100,000.
Definitely can. Yeah,
Hope so.
we can.
flag collectors at all.
So we
Yeah.
need 500 flag collectors.
Yeah, currently we really don't have enough volunteers to go out there with the tins. We have less than 100 now. So
Okay.
currently we are only 3 months away from the only 3 months away from the event, but currently we only have 15 volunteers who signed up.
One five
out of 500. So we really need your help. Please come forward. Please come forward. Volunteer your time. Just one day with us for a good cause.
Yes.
No, one day, just a few hours.
Just a few
Never
hours.
mind lah,
actually.
just say one day.
It's okay. I think just a few hours. I mean, be it you just come for like 2 hours, 3 hours, right? It's actually the effort count.
Yeah, of course.
So it's all for the good cause. Like,
You can bring your dogs.
yeah. So definitely people can bring their dogs over here.
Yeah, so flag collectors, they can bring their dogs and to go out with them so that you can have a fun day with your dog as well.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier on, this is very imminent. This is very important, and every single dollar count. And we can check the annual report because I found the annual report online, and it's all very transparent.
Yeah, that's the requirement of an IPC charity.
Yes.
Everything is online. And even the building of this new shelter, we are planning to only use materials that are ecologically sustainable, not expensive, and we are also trying to get as much pro bono help as we can. For example, the architects that we have engaged and approached, they are doing this entirely pro bono.
So before we conclude this podcast, right, just want to once again emphasize that every single effort count, okay? Every $1 count. If you may just donate $1, because like we mentioned earlier on, $3 for a worth of food a day for a dog, right? So share your efforts, just share the podcast, share with the people around you, to bring this awareness, to let the people around us know that all these lives are waiting for us to save.
Sometimes we have little children. They actually come to me, actually come with their tins, and then they will open their tins and they actually donate their pocket money. So that's very, very touching because it can be just a few dollars, but it really shows the passion that they have. So like you said, every dollar really is very important.
Yes.
And for these people, these little children, this it may be a few dollars, but it's all they have.
Yes.
And it really means a lot.
Yes. It's actually not the amount that you put in, but it's actually how much you are capable to put in. And even like young student, right? They have $5, but they're willing to give like maybe $3-4. Yeah, it's so touching to know that. Yeah, so definitely we are on the mission. Okay, we are on the mission to help these stray dogs to get a better home. Okay, and then to raise more awareness. And definitely need your help to share this podcast and to chip in your efforts and to come join us on our flag day. Okay, just to show support, physically be there, play with the fluffy friends as well.
And follow us on Facebook, Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah, we post quite often. So if you're not able to help out now, keep us on your feed.
At least
and
share
we
the videos.
Yeah, keep us
right.
on your feed. Share our videos, and maybe at some point when you have some free time on your hands, then that's when you are able to do more for us.
Yeah, I would say no single effort will go on waste.
Of course, yes.
If you can donate, you donate. If you can't donate, at least you share the efforts to share out the videos to create the awareness.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Any things to add on before? Any few more things to add before we end the
Thanks for having us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. And I really, I got touched by knowing all these stories and get to know more about SOSD. And once again, I must say this again. We are trying to, what we are doing right now is to create a ripple effect. Okay. Remember to click share button. Okay. So more share, more awareness, more funds, more volunteers, and better lives for the furry friends. And until next time, see you again. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being part of this incredible dialogue. We hope this episode has inspired you to embrace heart-to-heart dialogue in your own life. If you love to share your stories with us, DM us, comment below, or use the hashtag HTHD stories. Your voice matters, and we can't wait to listen and learn from you. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with your friends. Remember, every genuine conversation has the power to make a difference. Let's make an impact together. Till next time.